Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast Lehr, covering a topic here, sort of more general one, which I've wanted to discuss for some time. And don't worry, there'll be more Propagandacast Lehr sort of coming. I just had a period where I just couldn't quite seem to get together topics or find material for them. But back in the saddle here, and the topic for today are half-track specifically. I've sort of done videos on sort of the different ones, but overall, I mean, when you sort of look at it, most people don't really utilize half-tracks a lot. And even then, it sort of tends to be very minimal. They'll usually get them to upgrade them with something. And here's the thing, half-tracks have a lot more utility than just being upgraded with an anti-infantry weapon, or in the case of the M5, anti-vehicle weapon as well. And for starters, it's just, again, the simple fact you can use them to upgrade troops, not upgrade, but reinforce troops on the front line, which can give you a large amount of strength during any battle. Since basically that means just doing a lot of protected engagement, you can sort of just keep it nearby and sort of just keep reinforcing troops. It doesn't need to be right next to them, and it's against veterancy. It sort of becomes a bit better. Plus, it does serve all right there in sort of the infantry support role with its machine guns. I mean, most half-tracks do. I mean, the M3 for the Americans via mechanized is a bit weak. But, keep it a distance, it can still do all right because the machine guns mounted do perform better than most LMGs, for example. So, I mean, using the half-track in that way can make you a lot more sort of resistant during a defense, because your opponent will just have to deal with troops that won't just be sort of quickly pushed over the field, but can just be slowly reinforced as the battle progresses. Not progresses, not sure where that one came from, but progresses, and so that way you become a lot more durable and your defense becomes a lot stronger. I mean, that's really, I think, overall a very powerful tool, and that's just, again, using the half-track for reinforcement. And again, most factions, except the Oberkommando one, and that one, again, I find a bit strange, Germans, aggressive faction, no half-tracks, strange, but that's not the point. But still, most of them have in one way or the other, so you can utilize it. And of course, at the same time, you can also use it to grab points while they're using inside, protect them in that way. But also, just ferrying troops around is a very potent ability in itself, because it means you can use it to sort of quickly gain local superiority versus an enemy, versus harassers. You quickly hit them here, you can sort of quickly flank, again, moving them up there, protecting the infantry, then hit them from the side, and that way deal with them. Since the half-tracks usually will have some kind of greater mobility. And again, the German one's the one where you can't shoot out of it, but generally, I mean, you don't. That's also another thing I probably should discuss. You don't actually have to fire inside the half-track because it's not very effective. So you have two squads, have one fire, then have the other pop out, and that way again you sort of get a lot of firepower. They have both pop out again, lots of firepower. That's another thing there again with the half-track. I mean, offensively or even defensively, just having two squads appear besides the half-track with a lot of firepower there can do a lot of damage for you. In particular, if you actually use assault troops like panzer grenadiers, stormtroopers, conscripts, submachine guns, shock troopers, not rangers or paratroopers because they don't really sort of work together with that, but guardsmen with submachine guns, just units sort of more for an assault element there can really tear an enemy apart up close. When you suddenly appear them up there again, out of nowhere, and again the half-track itself also provides firepower. And that way you can also use it again, for example, here. What is this? There's an anti-tank unit hidden within the half-track, which again means all of a sudden you got a surprise element. Oh, your opponent says, that's just a half-track. Oh no, that was a Panzerschreck hiding inside said half-track. That way you can spring surprises upon your opponent. I mean, there's a lot of utility hidden within the half-tracks. And again, I'm just using the Wehrmacht here because, well, I could sort of shift between clips, but I'm being a bit lazy, I'll admit. But overall, I think I could sort of largely code with here. And that way, again, just a sudden surprise, more power, but again, also quickly shifts it. Power about, there's an attack going on here. Well, I'll move down my half-track to counter-attack. There's an attack going up here, I can shift the half-track up there. And again, as all this is happening, I can also reinforce elements. And again, the reinforcement is just such a huge part. Again, I'm surprised more people aren't going for it, particularly the infantry players, because again, it also means, and this is also rather good for more aggressive players, well, you can actually keep up the aggression because you don't have to worry about having to pull back troops, halfway through the assault. You can just keep on reinforcing and keep on pushing. It gives you a lot more mobility, a lot more durability during an attack as well. But again, during the defense, again, you can see I'm just being constantly attacked from several sides, and I can just keep on reinforcing. It actually means he has to pull in a lot more firepower, just sort of actually make a supreme sweep. Otherwise, well, I'm not going to budge because, well, I can just keep on reinforcing. I can keep on fighting right where I am. And again, that's a huge ability. And again, most factions have them in some way or the other, again, except the Oberkommando because they have no half-tracks. But again, Brits can get it through tactical support, or special weapons, actually special weapons. Americans get it through, well, their tactical support, and mechanized. Russians, of course, have access to half-tracks. Of course, the Wehrmacht has access to half-tracks as well. Plus, and you can also do somewhat with the command bunker, but overall, again, and also note the 251 can't do that. It's a bit rubbish, really. So again, there's a lot there they can sort of just, you as a player, make you much stronger on the defense and, offense as well. And that's rather sort of what I'm trying to sort of highlight here with the Propagandacast there, because I just feel really half-tracks overall, not just the 251, are severely underestimated and severely underutilized. I mean, again, most people go from them again, sort of just upgrade them or try to just charge forwards with them. They now try to sort of work them as part of a larger defense or even sort of a larger attack. And as a rule of thumb then, what you want to do is you have the infantry sort of, again, depending what you do, again, if you're attacking, you sort of get up close to sort of angle where they can't. Pop that in the infantry, do a lot of damage, possibly grab some support weapons. Again, that's also where it's good. You suddenly surprise a support weapon, grab it, and all of a sudden you got half-track, 2 infantry squads, and a support weapon fighting at your side. That's great. So in that sense, a half-track is a really powerful tool offensively and defensively. Again, as I sort of keep trying to say, and again, I really want to, impress that upon people, because again, I do feel it's a lot here. I think a lot of people could benefit from making more use of half-tracks, and also think it'll make for a more interesting play. I'm not saying everybody should use it, but certainly I find it for a more interesting and sort of rapid play style myself. Of course, they are vulnerable, and usually when you're not sort of quick making jabs here and there, you usually keep infantry in front of it, that is, screen it, usually a few paces ahead, so it can't sort of be easily rushed either. And of course, in that sense, a half-track can convey a slight different advantage, which is most players will then try to focus it down, thus allowing the infantry nearby it free shots without taking much damage from the enemy. So again, another sort of advantage there from the 251 half-track, or any other half-track really, if properly utilized. So again, very potent tool, but again, I feel it's probably one of the most underutilized elements in the game at the moment. That is simply the half-track. And again, any half-track really that is just there for reinforcement and supporting. And again, the machine guns themselves usually can do some damage. They're not going to take down half the enemy army on their own, but working in tandem with a larger force, they can do well. And as again, more experience, again, they can reinforce me further away, actually allowing you with, say, veteran 3 half-track, just park it there, and then you can, for example, cover most of the village here. Which is also a pretty impressive thing there, really. So hopefully with this you've gotten some ideas on the half-track there. Hopefully it's excited you and make you want to use them. And again, there are some tricks there, and obviously you'll have to consider what they can bring in at that time and so on. Try to sort of read your opponent's technique, because a half-track at the wrong time can end up poorly. Usually, for example, depending on what you're doing and playing against, you want some light anti-tank up first, so you're not completely buggered when it hits. I mean, there's nothing wrong with, say, getting a half-track a bit after, say, you've gotten some armor either, or gotten something else. Like, you don't have to rush it out first thing. But if you can rush it out there, you can usually also gain advantages that way. But again, good use of the half-track can be decisive. Again, for example, here, defensive, have to deal with some harassers. Move up the half-track up close, pioneers nearby. Pioneers and a half-track, also a good combo, because they can also repair any damage quickly done to it and sort of fix it up there. But there goes Stormtroopers joining in. But again, Riflemen overwhelmed thanks to the half-track and the Pioneers. The Stormtroopers aiding a bit, but overall they didn't get much off there before it's too late. Bit of damage there, half-track pushing back, but again we got infantry also drawing a bit of fire, doing damage at the same time. So again, half-track, really potent tool. Used properly. Again, it is really potent. And so I also remember in companies won many times where basically the only reason I held a line or a position was simply through having a half-track nearby, allowing me to reinforce my troops while the fighting was going on, and itself also just providing just enough fire support to turn things around. So when you're playing your games and all that, do consider half-track. I mean, it's obviously not going to help in every situation, but in general, I would say it's a very strong force multiplier on the defense and the offense. And again, 251s, M5s, M3s. The M3 is trickier, but still can be utilized if it's the American one. The British one, for some reason, actually has better stats. So, yeah. But overall, utilizing them well can do a lot for you again, offensively, defensively, and can just, again, give you so much more to do. And again, also allow you some more tactics. Again, just rapidly shifting units here and there, because again, it can just move 2 squads quickly from one point to the other. And that can, of course, throw your opponent off at times. So there's a lot there to sort of consider. So hopefully this has, given you a taste for it, an idea. And again, this is not going to be for all players. But even then, if you're not, say, the rapid, Blitzkrieg Commander or Shukov or Patton or anything like that, even just defensively, if you just slow slog, it can still be useful because it's still sort of an element you can reinforce with and can also shift around here and there. So I mean, it is a surprisingly potent tool, which again I do feel is severely underutilized and underestimated in the game at the moment. So do consider it. So this has been the a fresh propaganda cast there. Hopefully this has been enlightening. Hopefully it's been helpful. If it has, subscribe, share it, like it, comment on it, of course. If there's some extra details you want or some other clarifications, I'll of course try to answer. Maybe some other helpful chat in the comments will. And of course, if you like the propaganda cast, what it does, do consider donating. Every little bit helps. And we got links in the video description. You can do so via Patreon or PayPal. So do consider. But this is Imperial Deng signing off. We'll be back with more Propagandacast in the future, plus more other exciting videos. So this is Imperial Deng signing off, and cheers.